They all said I was crazy when I brought that tiny calf home. It was a cold autumn evening some 25 years ago. The wind was howling, and the rain had turned the road to mud. That's when I found her, a shivering, malnourished calf no bigger than a large dog, tied to a rusted fence outside an abandoned barn on the edge of town. Her eyes were the saddest things I'd ever seen. They weren't just eyes, they were questions. Why me? Why here? Why alone? I untied her, wrapped her in my patchwork quilt, and loaded her into the back of my rusty pickup. I named her Daisy, though I had no idea she'd grow into something the townsfolk would later call Muzilla. Back then, I lived alone on my little farm just past Miller's Creek. A modest house, 2 goats, 3 chickens, and a grumpy old cat named Winston. I wasn't rich, not even close, but I had enough to feed one more mouth, or so I thought. Daisy was a strange one from the beginning. She had an appetite like no other calf I'd ever seen. She'd guzzle down bottles of milk like she was training for a dairy marathon. And she grew fast. Within a few months, she was the size of a full-grown cow. By the time she turned 1, she was taller than me. At 3 years, she was taller than my tractor. At 5, she could rest her chin on the roof of my house. And oh boy, the feeding. I had to take out a second loan just to keep up with the hay bill. I tried to grow more myself. Corn, alfalfa, even pumpkins. But Daisy would just wander into the field and munch through it like a 4-legged combine. I once caught her licking the side of the barn like it was a popsicle. She wasn't just big, she was smart. She learned how to open doors, unscrew lids, and one time she even turned on the garden hose to spray Winston, who probably deserved it. But most of all, she was gentle. The neighborhood kids would come by every weekend to climb on her back or slide down her side like she was a living playground. Of course, the government didn't like it one bit. When Daisy turned 10 and reached 4 meters tall, I got a visit from some very serious-looking men in black suits. They asked a lot of questions. What was I feeding her? Was she genetically modified? Did I work for a lab? Was I hiding aliens? I laughed. Gentlemen, I said, the only science involved here is love, good soil, and 3 gallons of milk a day. They didn't find it funny. They tried to take her, claimed she was a national biological anomaly and needed to be studied. I told them over my dead body. And when they showed up with a truck to haul her away, Daisy refused to budge, sat right on the road like a boulder with a stubborn streak. Eventually, they gave up. Or maybe they just realized you can't argue with a grandma who once chased a bear off her porch with a broom. These days, Daisy and I have settled into a comfortable rhythm. Every morning, I milk her. Yes, I still can. And yes, it takes hours. And then we go for a walk through the village. She's like a celebrity. People come from all over to take selfies with her. I even made a bit of money selling Muzilla milk at the market. It's rich, creamy, and supposedly cures hangovers, though that might just be local legend. Last year, I used the money to build her a new barn, one with skylights, industrial fans, and a feeding chute big enough to drive a tractor through. And I finally retired from my knitting business. Between Daisy and my modest savings, I've got all I need. Sometimes I sit on the porch and look at her grazing in the field. This towering, majestic creature who came into my life unexpectedly and made it magical. People often ask me if I ever regretted taking her in, especially when she stepped on my garden or accidentally knocked down my mailbox with her tail. I always give the same answer. Raising Daisy was the best mistake I ever made. Because love doesn't care how big you are, or how much you eat, or whether you fit into a world that thinks you're too much. Sometimes the biggest blessings come in the strangest packages, like a 4-meter cow who once fit in the back of a rusty old pickup. These days, Bessie and I live a quieter life. I don't have as much strength as I used to, and she doesn't run like she once did. But every morning, I still go out to the field. She's always waiting there, lying in the grass, her massive body casting a shadow over half the pasture. I sit beside her with my tea, and she leans her big old head on my shoulder like she's still that tiny calf in my apron. Some say I should have sold her, made millions. But what would I do with all that money? Buy a yacht? Go to Paris? I already have everything I need. My little farmhouse, my memories, and the biggest, gentlest cow in the world who came into my life like a mystery and stayed like a miracle. So if you ever hear a thundering sound in the distance that shakes the ground just a little, don't worry. That's just Bessie stretching her legs,